All
right, folks, we'll get started. Like I say, we'll drift in. That'll be fine. Welcome today. We are fortunate to have a number of our undergraduate researchers here on campus come and chat with us today a bit about their research pathways and some of their experiences in undergraduate research here at USask. My name is Jordan Epp. I am the undergraduate research coordinator here at the university. So we organize the SURE program, which is the skills sort of development workshops, such as this one, and lots of other things throughout the year. We facilitate the FIRE courses, which are the first year research experience courses, which are courses you can register for that have a research experience built right into them. And then our office also manages the USRAs, which is the Undergraduate Student Research Awards, and those are coming up. The deadline they'll be launched here. We just got a date yesterday, so December 2nd, the USRAs will be launched, and you'll be able to start applying for those with your supervisor. And then the deadline for those will be January 31st. And those are to fund summer research projects where you'd be working with faculty member over the summer to work in their lab or out in the field with them or other experiences like that. But it's a funded learning opportunity, research opportunity, and a really good way to get some research experience under your belt and to have that start to build your research profile. I do want to acknowledge we're on Treaty 6 territory in the homeland of the Métis today. I often talk about Indigenous research methods and research knowledge systems as part of that land acknowledgement. I think it's really important as folks who are engaged in research on Treaty 6 territory that we think about how to engage not just respectfully with our Indigenous and First Nations communities and Métis communities here, but also how we uplift our research using those research methods and thinking about those research methods and those ways of knowing. So just something to be thinking about as we sort of engage with research here at the University of Saskatchewan. Today we have 4 panelists, and we're just going to go around and talk a little bit about some of their experiences, talk about how they got into it. We'll have an opportunity for you guys to ask some questions as well, and to engage with the panel. But I just want to start off just quick with some introductions. So maybe we'll do a quick round of introductions, maybe just your name, the year you're in, the program you're in, and just a really quick little brief bit about what your research has been and what kind of research experiences you've had in the last little bit, and then we'll get into some of the details of that. So maybe we'll start at this end with you, Graham. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi. I'm Graham. I'm in my first year of my paleobiology degree here at USask, and I did a summer research project supervised by one of the geology faculty members on a local fossil deposit, which I entered into the summer symposium for USAW and SURE. And then I got an award at that. And so now I'm here. And yes, thank you. Super excited to be here.
Great.
So hi, my name is Jalen Marsh. I'm in my 4th year of agronomy here at USask. I'm in the College of Agriculture and Bioresources, majoring in agronomy, which is the study of plant and soil. My thesis for my undergrad is focusing on this newly emerging cattail that's hybrid and invasive here in Saskatchewan, and I'm looking at the soil traits associated with it and working alongside Dr. Chantel Chisen.
Hello, everyone. My name is Naima. I'm in 3rd year of biomedical sciences, majoring in interdisciplinary biomedical sciences. So that's with the College of Arts and Science. And throughout my undergrad, I've had the opportunity to do some summer research projects through NSERC. And my research project that I did this summer was with the Department of Chemistry. And I actually did including biocatalytic steps in the making of caffeic acid. So that was kind of combining biology things into like chemical reactions.
So thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Haytham. I'm in my 4th year of biomed. Throughout the summer, I did some research in the agriculture sector on porcine sperm, and now I'm doing my research with Dr. Brian Bandy on vitamin C and how to better deliver it through the mitochondrial membrane.
Awesome, thank you. So yeah, lots of different opportunities, lots of different, I kind of chose you four for this panel because they've all got very different pathways. They came to research differently, they've had different experiences, they've won different awards, they've been funded in different ways, so lots of different variety. And I guess that's one of the things that I hope to get across to undergraduate folks who are interested in research is people always say, well, how do you get into it? And there's no one answer. That's the problem. So there's no one way to get into research at the University of Saskatchewan. Lots of it is around networking and lots of other options. But I guess what I wanted to start with was really around why. Why were you interested in getting involved in research? Because I think that's an interesting sort of start to anybody's pathway. So maybe we'll start and just try and answer that question. Was there something that was it a particular experience or an interest that sparked an interest in a particular either in your discipline or something else that sort of sparked an interest that made you go, yeah, I want to research this. I don't just want to get my undergrad and do a degree, but I actually want to become a researcher and think about this. So maybe we'll start with you, Nahima.
Sure. I would say for me, it's kind of always been something I was interested about, even little, like we always have the idea of like scientists and like playing around with components. So I kind of, when I got into university, it was kind of a way of being closer to that role and seeing that idea materialize. So I was more engaged. I really wanted to get involved into it. So I guess I started reaching out to people and knowing, okay, how can I make this happen? Now that I'm here and I have really the opportunity, the material, the resources to make this happen. And it's not just like, oh, it's science fair. So that's kind of how I got into it. It was kind of just always an interest I had in mind. And now that I was in university, I could make it happen. So just did whatever I needed to do to make that happen.
So, Haitham?
How I got into, well, I like to think of myself as an adventurer, as an explorer, but unfortunately I was born too late to get on a ship and explore the new world, and too early to get on a spaceship and go to Mars. So the best way to seek that thrill, the adventuring, the discovering the unknown thrill is through research. And why I got into the biology aspect of it, well, I used to read papers and I read some Soviet era papers about human disease. And some of them challenge the way we think about diseases today, the metabolic aspect and whatever. And I thought that I like that. I like the niche. I like that there are things that we still don't understand, still things that we still don't know. And I've been seeking that thrill ever since with some obstacles that we can get into later.
Awesome. Jillian?
Yeah, so the agriculture industry is very high into research. No matter where you are in your career in agriculture, it's always evolving. And I kind of wanted to be a part of the movement from early years of first year to second year ag. It's very high just introducing yourself into research. And I really liked the courses that were offering me something that I haven't learned. And that was very new for me. And I really appreciated the effort that everyone put into my education early on that kind of got me in the mindset of I want to contribute to this as well. And since ag and the entire industry is always changing to be better, I kind of wanted to be a part of the change, and this is a great place to do it. So yes.
Awesome. Grant?
Oh, my goodness. I really enjoyed listening to those other answers. How do I get into it? Well, I think paleontology is sort of one of those things where everyone, for the most part, will tell you more or less the same story. It was all I wanted to do ever since I was in kindergarten roundabouts, and yeah, and then when I got older, when I got into middle school, early high school around that period, I started fossil collecting, and so I would go out to construction sites or by the river. I grew up in Ottawa, Ontario, so and then it just felt right. I don't know, and so I continued on throughout high school. I did science fairs as well, and all those sorts of things. And I found myself here, and now I think I still have that same drive to learn more, to I don't know, always be in search of things, and I really particular enjoy the subdiscipline which is called paleoecology, which is essentially reconstructing past ecosystems, environments, piece by piece over time, whether that be discovering the remains of a certain species or drawing certain environmental conclusions from plants or microfossils and all that. And that is what my project this summer involved. So yeah, it's just been one continuing I don't yes, path.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, dinosaurs, right? Like,
Yeah.
So you just never stopped loving them.
No, yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. So, okay, you're all coming at it, interested in it, probably before you even got to the university. Had that drive sort of to begin with. But now you've started your undergraduate degree and you've gone, okay, now how do I do this? So what was the first step? What did you do? What was the first thing where you were like, okay, now how do I actually engage with the research at the university? And what was your first step? Jillian, we'll start with
Yeah.
you.
So one of the first steps I took into wanting to pursue research was actually very simple. Actually, I figured it out pretty quickly in my second year. Talking to your professors is probably the best advice I could give anyone, making yourself present in the course. And that kind of led me to meeting with my advisor or even figuring out what I wanted to study is figuring out what you're interested in and asking the professor of like, what does research look like in this field? What would something like a research question be? What is something that needs to be studied? And that's kind of how I went about it to figure out who and how I was going to do the research. I knew I wanted to study plants and soil, and this topic came to me from Chantel, who had this topic in mind, and that's kind of just how the stars aligned. If that kind of helps answer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
I suppose urgency. So I looked at myself and we all want to hit the market eventually, right? We're gonna get jobs. And I looked at myself and I looked at my peers and I said, what makes me more unique than my peers? Turns out nothing, absolutely nothing. In fact, my peers are way more better than me. And there's a sense of urgency that I need to stand out somehow. And I suppose getting some research and experience in my pocket and even beyond research experience, actually life experience. We'll get into that later. That helped me get the job, let's say, is what made me focus more on, let's go. I need some experience before I graduate.
Yeah.
For sure, I would say I'm a person that I like to understand what I'm doing. Whenever I do something, I like to do it well. So whenever I have an interest, I try to ask questions, I ask around. So whether that be for teachers, peers, I like to know what everyone's kind of doing. Like, and I think that openness and just sharing your plans or your aspirations, like, oh, I want to be involved in research. That's kind of what opened the door for me for the different opportunities. I think the first concrete step I took after talking was actually attending one of those workshops organized by USask, actually. And how did I know about that? Because I didn't really see it on social media back then. It was just talking to different people and, oh, how are the opportunities? So I think a good thing would be to voice what you have. Sometimes I guess
Yeah.
it's good to hide all the little details. You don't need to say anything, but just talking and sharing your ideas, we get to discover different things. And that's the thing with research too. You just discover different things by talking to different people. Okay.
Yeah, it's a good one. Graham?
Oh, and what was the question again? Sorry.
What was your first step? Like,
Right, first step.
you wanted to get into research. What was the first thing you sort of thought, well, I'll do this and that'll be a good first step into it?
Well, I think the thing that was so exciting for me about the whole process, beginning to end in this case, was that it more or less happened by accident. I didn't go into it envisioning that necessarily that I would turn into some kind of a research project. Of course, that's always something that I at least am thinking about in the back of my head, is that whenever I'm at a particular site and looking for specimens, the first thought is always, oh, what will I do if I find something that has not been found before? What if I find something which is otherwise significant? And the really great thing for me about Saskatoon is that we're a city which is quite different from where I grew up in Ottawa, Ontario, right? There, most of the local geology was already mapped, and everyone knew which fossil species were known from where and what age they were, and what the topography and stratigraphy was like. In other words, just the layering of things. But here in Saskatoon, we because we're a smaller city, and also because we have the T-Rexes and dinosaurs in the south of the province, no one's really so far looked at our own geology right here in the city. And so I was really, when I arrived here as a teenager, when my family moved here, it was really exciting. And so through all those years, I was just making my own collections, looking at different areas which were interesting towards me to me. And then most recently, a couple of months ago, what started my whole project was I found a new site which had a very specific species of trace fossil. So in other words, I know I'm talking a long time, but this it's a very a kind of not the bones or tooth per se, but a trace a living thing leaves behind as it moves through on top of the sediment or inside. And they were this very specific type of burrow, which had not been found in Canada in this type of sediment before, and not in this age of sediment either. And so I didn't quite know what they were, but I emailed Louise Boitois, who's one of our geology professors here, and he just so happens to be one of the world leading authorities on trace fossils in general. And I correctly guessed what they were, even though I wasn't sure. And so he was impressed by that, and he said, I think this is significant. I think you could write something about this. And then from there, it was one thing after another.
Yeah.
I started writing the paper with the intention of maybe submitting it. And then I was on pause one day and saw that there was this research symposium coming up, and that sounded so much fun. So I made it to a poster, and then the award, and now we're here. So basically, first step was just sort of, I don't know, it's sort of just been an unintentional process for me.
Yeah.
So I think in some sciences you can, yeah, there's never quite telling what might happen, I suppose.
Yeah. But I'm hearing some themes throughout some of that, right? One of them is, sort of reaching out first off, and just making sure that you're trying to engage with faculty who are holding research funding and are researching here at the university, and sort of reaching out to people and sort of trying to connect your interests with what they're doing. I think that's a really good piece we talk about when you're trying to talk to a professor, doing a bit of homework and finding out who's doing research around your area of interest, and sort of gathering up a number of different voices in that area that you can sort of reach out to and talk to. So yeah, I'm hearing that. I'm hearing just networking from both of you, and saying, just letting people know what your interests are, and saying this is kind of what I'm interested in, and then hearing from other folks, who might have some suggestions as to where you might go next with that kind of thing. So those are all really good suggestions. Positions outside your discipline, interdisciplinary opportunities, anything around that? I know, Hytham, that you've done some of that sort of interdisciplinary, not necessarily finding opportunities in your own discipline, and then sort of saying, well, how can this sort of connect to other interdisciplinary sort of things? You want to talk a bit about that?
Yeah, that's a good thing, actually. So this is a multi-layered question. In my pursuit of networking, I decided to join a few random things, whether it's a Chinese cultural club, or a animal rehabilitation center. I don't know if you heard about Blue Skies. People bring in wild animals that are injured, and we help sort of patch them up or put them down. Anyway, now on the surface, that might not seem that it would. What does that have to do with research? Well, when I went to my first interview, my first opportunity, I was like, hey, I have this experience with animals, actually. We used to patch them up. We used to do this, we used to do that. And my first experience was like working in a farm, or part of the job, it was working in a lab, but part of the job is that you go into a farm, you deal with pigs, you have to do with animals. So anyway, in the interview, I linked my experience with wild animals with these things, and it sort of was a bit impressive to the interviewer. So these interdisciplinary things, or things that might seem outside of the realm of research, you can try to adapt them to your roster of experience, to impress others or relate them to the area of research. I don't know another example, but I hope you
Yeah.
get the idea.
No, I like that. There's so many research skills that overlap with other skills, just work experience skills and other things. One of our workshop tomorrow, which is advanced strategies for CV and applications. Brett, from the career services is going to talk a little bit about how to talk about your skills, how to write about your skills. And write about your skills and competencies in a way that links those skills to the types of jobs and things that you're trying to get, or the types of research that you're trying to get interested in. There's lots of overlapping skills, academic skills, work experience skills, research skills that all sort of overlap. And that kind of draws me into the next question, which is around, so once you were speaking to professors, or once you were speaking to companies for research experiences and things like that, what was it that your professors were interested in hearing about you? What skills were they looking for? So what types of things what were the hireable skills that they were looking for when you got your positions? So Graham, maybe we'll start with you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So what are they looking for? Well, I'd say at least in my case, it really was simply about demonstrating that I had the knowledge and I had the not as much as him, but a foundational knowledge
Yep.
with which I could approach the project. As I said, the whole thing that started the project was just that he was impressed I was able to correctly identify them. And I think, yeah. And that was because I had invested a lot of time into research, comparing different papers, looking at figures, and it turns out much of those he himself had written. So it was, yeah, just demonstrating that I was serious about it, that I had the passion, and I had that amount of knowledge necessary that can grow a project.
Yeah, passion, base
Yeah.
knowledge of it for sure.
Yeah, so I think one thing that I don't really know this for sure, but Chantel really looked for when she was picking me as a undergrad researcher was the passion. You might not know the basic knowledge of it, but if you have passion, that's your pretty much your willingness to learn. And if you are of any interest in it, you will be wanting to learn to go forward with your research. Having a better understanding of why you want to do that, or why you're here trying to answer that question, or even pursue deeper knowledge, can answer most of the questions that you'll learn along the way. It's a really big learning curve to get to that level of knowledge that you want to have that mastering skill of that topic. However, just having that underlining passion is a big part. So
Yeah, none of us are never gonna know it all, are we?
no, we'll never know it all, but as long as you have enough care or are interested in enough, you will learn, and naturally in that sense.
Yeah, I think that's really important. I think one of the things we try and tell undergraduates who are maybe interested in research but not sure, there's a big, especially in research in general, there tends to be a really big imposter syndrome, right? We all think, well, not me. It's not for me. It's for, those really, really smart students. That's who it's for, right? Even you were saying, Hytham, right? Oh, my peers, so much better than me, right? We all have this imposter syndrome, like we don't belong in research. And what I always try and get across to students, especially those who maybe their marks aren't at the top of their class or those types of things, is that it's not the academics necessarily that make a great researcher. Great researchers are made by their passion for the topic and their curiosity. And that's the big thing I find is it makes the great researchers that come out of the university are passionate and curious about what it is they want to do. And I think you're right. I think when they're looking for undergraduates or graduate students to work with alongside them in their lab, that's what they're looking for, is someone who's really looking for that kind of thing and really pushing. How about you?
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna sound redundant here, but I think for me as well, it was passion, because specifically the one I did this summer, the research project I did this summer, I was actually lacking a main course. So the supervisor usually takes students that have taken the specific course. So I only took the first part and not the second part. But I think he was impressed just because of the initiative, first of all, that I still took, the passion that he saw that I really cared about this project and I wanted to know more about this, and I was like ready to work. So I think that's one of the reasons that he accepted me and was willing to work with me, because it's not only just about what you know, but how much you're willing to put into it. And he saw, okay, this person is ready. We can work with this and she will learn fast. So
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with them. Look, we're students here. All the professors and all the companies know that we practically come with no experience, right? It's apparent, that fact is apparent. So they're not expecting you to come in with a PhD and trailblazing and the world's biggest genius or something like that. They don't expect you to do that, but they do expect you at a minimum to have a base knowledge or a vague idea, you know, that you could build on. They do expect you to have passion, but not passion in like, I like this something. No, like there's a drive that, hey, I'm gonna build, I'm gonna work. And you have to sort of show that. I use that. I use that fact to appeal to the guy who interviewed me. I said, look, I'm a hard worker. I don't come with a lot of experience, but I am a hard worker. Just let me prove it to you. Worked. Yeah, and one thing about the professors, this is a useful tip maybe. And look, these people are nerds, right? And yeah, and what do you know about nerds? Is that, hey, when I talk to Star Trek and I'm so passionate about it, and you're bored. And most of the time they get that reaction. So when you come in with prior experience, you read their papers, a bit of their papers before you have a big idea of, and then you talk, hey, I liked your paper about that. I liked what you said about that. And they're like, their eyes light up. You like that? And they start talking. And this is a useful method, is that just come in with a vague, you don't need to be an expert, just a vague base of knowledge about that. And you can talk to them. This will open doors for you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's that homework piece we talked about, right? And before you go to approach a professor or an instructor about working with them, have an idea of what their research is, have an idea of what they've published. Read a couple of their papers so you can bring them up in the interview, because yeah, like you say, the one thing they're guaranteed to want to talk about is their research and their publications. They definitely want to talk about that stuff, and if you can open up the conversation a bit with some of that, that's super helpful. What are some of the skills that you learned from working in research? So are there either specific research skills or communication skills or other things? Are there sort of specific things that you feel you developed while you were sort of doing your research? Nahimo, maybe start with you.
for sure. So the first research that I was involved with was with live things. So it was actually plants. I would say I learned more how to plan out my things, because a lot of the time I'm a person that also likes crafts. So I do quilting as a hobby, and like you usually need a plan or a pattern, and then but that's something that's mobile. It doesn't change into time. And if you do change things, it's not, you don't need to plan, because if you don't do it today, it will change tomorrow. Whereas plants, you really need to monitor the growth and do things at specific times. So you really need to have that long-term planning and oversee, like, when am I gonna do this? When am I gonna do this next step? So I think that's one of the biggest thing I had learned from that project. And yeah, we talked about a lot about how research is really relevant and can apply to skills you probably already had. So that's what I was thinking. So the quilting thing is like a methodology, and that's a lot. A big part of research is also just having methodology and knowing how to plan something and follow through with that planning. So I think that's a way that the research kind of affects my hobbies, and my hobbies affect research.
Yeah, some methodology. Yeah, I love that. Graham, how about you?
Well, I think the main thing I learned about is just the kinds of the kind of time investment that is often required, at least in my field, to start some kind of project or to start a new avenue of research. It was a lot of hours of poring over papers and books and textbooks and all that. But over all that time accumulated, I got the knowledge base that I needed to identify those specimens and then impress the professor and sort of get his eyes on my specimens, and then everything else flowed from there. I think I must have learned also how to, over time, because I was emailing many different professors in addition to Louise on campus.
Yeah.
Like I was emailing other paleontologists and there wasn't so much interest there. But when I emailed Louise, there was the much stronger interest. So I think I was also, piecing together little bits of how to relate to and communicate with professors and researchers, established researchers, and as we were saying, comment on their research, on their career. Because in my case, I knew some of this going in, but I only learned later just how much my project related to his
Right.
career.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I like that. Yeah, and again, that's something that we talk about as well, that persistence. It's because you may have to email 10 professors before you get someone who really clicks and is super interested in what you're sort of bringing to the table or what you're sort of talking about. So a bit of that persistence and yeah, like you say, those communication skills go a long way and just sort of trying to figure out how to best approach it and that kind of thing. So Jalen, how about you?
Yeah, I think some skills that I developed is probably the organization aspect of it. From previous summer jobs in the ag industry as well with Bayer Crop Science. I had lots of trial data that I needed to process and getting that organization of where the trials were, what was the weather like, stuff like that really came in handy for when it came to soil sampling for my project. And that was a really big aspect to making the project work. And in order for it to be successful, is having that organization of your data early on. So that kind of was a really good skill to develop.
Awesome. Hytham, how about you?
So yeah, there's a lot of things I've learned a lot of things, whether it's personal or professional. On the professional side, obviously the skills in the lab, the problem solving, a lot of problem solving, ton of problem solving, ton of problems you're gonna face. But you could learn the patience, or you would need to acquire the patience for that. On the personal side, well, I learned something crucial in research, that there's no bad results, right? And thinking that there's bad results will sort of invite that data faking demon that whispers in your ear when you're like 20 minutes a bit late in the lab. And so yeah, this thing that about like there's bad thing, negative thing, and there's a negative or bad results. No, in research there's results. There's a hypothesis and then there's a result. This is something I learned, that to accept that there's no bad results in research, you just continue to build on. On the professionals, or no, yeah, tenacity. I learned that I should have like a good mental fortitude, and maybe I should touch on that a bit now.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, you need a lot of tenacity, especially if you're like one of my cases. Are there some foreigners here, non-Canadians?
International students? Any international students?
All right, then never mind. Anyway, I can't get into it's very
Maybe
hard.
some online,
Yeah.
Hytham, but
So anyway, it's very hard to get into research positions in the university because they're funded by the government, and that usually doesn't cover international students. So I had to pivot into the private sector, and it took me 302 emails, job applications, to get 2 replies. So that's a success rate of about 0.6. Yeah.
it's a success rate.
Yeah, yeah, but tenacity, and you need the mental fortitude for that. And so I developed some strategies, which is, I'll tell you about them if you want, but yeah, I developed some mental strategies to just prowl on and just play the numbers game, right? Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. Tenacity is a very important one for sure. Yeah, and especially like you say, international students definitely have more barriers in terms of those funding opportunities. So the tri-agency USRAs that are coming up are a Canadian government funding agencies, and yeah, typically in most years, not all years, but in most years. They're available only to Canadian citizens, permanent residents, and those seeking underprotected something. So yeah, it ends up being a much bigger struggle to find that envelope of funding that's going to fund you for the summer. So the way the USRAs work, the tri-agency USRAs work, is that when you apply with a faculty member, You apply your section and they apply their section and you do it together. And if you are successful, then the government pays half of your summer salary, but that needs to be topped up by the faculty members' research funding. So the researcher has to have some funding of their own. They have to be a fund holder in order to top up the rest of your salary for the summer. So half of it comes from you and half of it, or comes from them and half of it comes from the government. And so if you don't have that half from the government, then that would mean that the faculty member needs to put up the whole amount, and that ends up being a lot harder for a faculty member to hand over that much of their hard-earned money when there's other options. So yeah, so tenacity and yeah, Hytham reached out to me after one of our other workshops with his story. So we invited him to the panel just to sort of tell a bit of that tale and just talk about a bit of those extra struggles that international students face for sure.
It's good that you, on the subject of money, now you have to accept, I'm gonna tell you a story of another student that was in the research in the company with me. Now, I'm not shy to say it, my hourly wage was $16 per hour, right? And so is the other student who was with me, and he was telling me about, oh, hey, I got an opportunity in an oil field and they pay about $27 an hour if you want to come with me, right? But here's the thing, you're gonna have to accept that this comes along with the tenacity and the mental fortitude that there's not a lot of money for you right now. Right now, there's not a lot of money for you, right? And you're gonna have to, my advice, if you want to go to an oil field, that's your pejorative, but my advice for you is to get through it, because that's valuable experience. When you go in the market, you're not gonna talk about your job in an oil field or in McDonald's or something like that. You need some experience in research, and in order to have that, you're gonna have to put up, my advice for you, you don't have to, but this is for you, but you're gonna have to put up initially with a low pay grade, and even for the next 5 years or 6 years or something, unless you go into graduate studies or whatever. So there's gonna be little money for you for now, but I hope for now, but yeah, should build up your experience.
Yeah, that's good. How about how the skills that you've developed in your research opportunities, how have those sort of crossed over into maybe your schoolwork or other academics? Have those skills that you developed as researchers helped you in your academic life as well? Jamie?
Yeah, sure. So like I'm in the early stages of writing my undergrad thesis, but the writing process beforehand has come in very handy because you kind of do a mock one in your third year and you have an idea on how to do it in your second year. So when it came down to writing it, you already have developed those skills from previous courses. In turn, that was a little bit of the reverse of the question you were asking, but going forward, I think having those skills pre-developed worked really well and came in very handy when it came to actually writing the thesis itself.
Yeah, for sure. And I know folks we've talked to have gone on to do graduate studies who have undergraduate experience. Certainly say undergraduate research experience, certainly say that, as far as going into a graduate program, that, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the obvious one. Are there any less obvious ones out there? I'll just sort of open it up to anybody. Any skills that are overlapping into your academics?
I mean, I think I can't say enough good things about the research skills and how they impact my day-to-day life. I think it's really helpful. Again, at least in paleontology, you have to kind of put up with a lot of tedium almost and a lot of background research before you can get to the more exciting parts of the project. And that I think is a really transferable skill, because in a lot of areas of my life, I'm having to put up with tedium and busy work right now to get to the more exciting parts. So I have better mental fortitude, I would say. Yeah. And I see more opportunities now. I'm the project that I did over the summer is being turned by me and my supervisor into a paper right about now, and I have more projects that I hope to start after that one is published. And again, I didn't know that USask had such an amazing undergraduate research thing going on. And so I'm seeing more opportunities in academic sphere and then just in the life sphere, just getting more creative ways to continue pursuing that research in the future. Yeah.
Heyman?
For sure. Other than the ones that are directly like, oh, so I'm in the sciences field, like I've said. So other than the ones like, oh, well, I guess I've had more experience in the labs or anything, so that could transfer easily to my classes. But I think an important thing about, or something that I really like about being the summer researchers is that you have a lot more opportunity to grow. And I think it's slower paced in a way because now you have most of the time you don't have so many students. Like it could go from if you're in like an undergraduate chemistry, there's like 60 students and only 2 TAs. Whereas it's usually flipped when you go into summer research. It's like you were like 3 students max, and there's like everyone is basically at your disposition, so you're free to ask more questions, and I think that gives you more time to learn and understand the processes, and after it gives you better understanding of what's going on. So when you go back into your classes or the world, you kind of understand why things are happening, and it's just easier to understand why things are the way they are, and you can ask better questions, whether that be in class, or it just gives you more time to think about why things are the way they are, whether that be in classes or just the way society is structured. So that's what I really like.
Yeah, like that more time, more access to your instructors during that time as well. I think those are really good points.
I suppose the confidence was also like something I noticed that I gained. Like initially when I first stepped into it, it was almost like pathetic, like please hire me, right? But right now, I won't say on equal footing. It sort of alleviated some symptoms of the imposter syndrome you mentioned, right? Right now, I won't say on equal footing, but right now I feel the confidence that to talk to my professors more, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm interested in this research, and you tell me, in my head, let's say, you tell me, well, who are you to say that? Well, I am a guy who did this research and did that research, and I sort of am an authority to speak on that subject, right? So the main thing I noticed about myself in that aspect is the growth of confidence. And the more experience you're gonna have, the more confidence you're gonna gain. And people like confident people generally, right? Confident people are hireable. Yeah.
I want to give a chance for the folks in the room and the folks online to ask any questions. If you've got specific questions for our panel about some of their experiences or how they got started in research, or where they're headed next, or what some of the opportunities that they would recommend. So if there's any questions in the room or online, I'll give a second for that. And don't be afraid of the silence.
Sorry for my coffee.
Yeah, please.
When to the year did you guys start talking to profs? And is there like an ideal time to do that?
My answer. Okay.
So
So-
just to repeat the question, if we didn't hear online, was at what point in your undergrad did you start talking to profs?
So I think this is a really good question. Thank you for asking. So I started kind of looking for a professor my second year. It worked out really well at Chantel, my advisor. She taught me my second year soil science course, and talking to that professor, making yourself aware of who you are, and a little bit of individualism, a part of that as well. But second year to third year was probably the best time because you have experienced first year, second year, and third year courses, and you have an idea of kind of what you want to go to. Third year was probably the best time I'd suggest. If not, an academic advisor for your college should be able to point you in the right direction. That's the case for the ag bio. Your advisor will point you into direction of someone who's in that research that you're interested in. But having an idea probably by your third year is a good recommendation.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. And it really depends on the program you're in. Some programs have an honors program where you can get into research that way and start doing an honors program that has a research component built into it. And that's usually a third or fourth year kind of a thing. And then, yeah, so lots of different options, but other ideas on that?
What was your question? You said in which year should you start looking, or in what time of the year should you start looking?
Kind of both. Really.
Both, what time of the year? ASAP. So you're gonna, you want summer project, right?
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah.
But March is okay, but still, in March, you're gonna find less opportunities. Sometimes you're gonna find in April too, like a student who dropped out of professor's lab and then he will announce, but that's usually comes through what? Connection, right? He's gonna tell other professors, oh, I had the student drop out of my research. Could you tell your students? Something like that, you know, so, but ASAP. In which year? Second to third, myself, fourth, I'm a late bloomer, you know, but you know, mostly third, because you're gonna be equipped with all of these classes that the professors will ask for. They're gonna be confident that, oh, you have the scientific method memorized already, and you have maybe some competency and skill. Usually it's a specific class. In our case, it's 320. 320. After we take 320, which is a second, third year course.
Yeah, as far as what time of year, yeah, now is when you should be actively pursuing instructors. Like I say, if you're, especially if you're looking to apply for a USRA for the summer. And that's the easiest way for a faculty member to bring you on board as a research assistant, because it pays half. And so that's the easiest way for them to engage with undergraduate students in their research directly in a big way. And in a fair way to you. That's the other thing, right? I mean, there's probably opportunities to do volunteer work in labs and some of those things, but your time is valuable and you should be getting paid for these things, and you should be getting your time is valuable. So yeah. If you're looking to apply for the USRAs, like I say, they launch December 2nd. You need to have a supervisor in place before you apply for that. So you need to have somebody who's agreed to work with you and agreed to take you on at that point. Then you apply together, and then that application goes in by the end of January. You need time to develop what that application is. What's the research project? What are the activities the undergraduate student's going to be doing? You put that in at the end of January. You'll find out about that the end of March. And then there's 1 month, and starting in May, you're off, hit the ground running, and you're doing your research. So it seems like a long way away, summer. But the summer research grants are typically for May to August. So that's typically when that project is going to take place. So it comes fast. So yeah, now is definitely a great time to be talking to folks. Other questions?
Hi.
Hello.
So I just wanted to ask, like, what sort of conversations should you anticipate in like interviews with the professors, and how can you like make an impression? You know, what did you guys do?
It's a great question.
I'll start.
Yeah, go ahead.
So one of the biggest misconceptions, I think, is that the professors, like, you want to have your project already picked. I think for most of the panelists here, they had an idea roughly of what your topic is, but the best part about research is you can go to your professor knowing nothing of what you want to research, and you can listen to the ideas that they want pursued. So that's kind of how I went with my conversation. Is I said I want to do plants and soil. Chantel presented me this topic and I picked it. And this is something that needed to be researched. So that's kind of how I went around it, is that you didn't need a topic or an idea picked. As long as you went there and listened to topics that they were interested in, can kind of get your brain thinking about things you might be interested in going forward.
Yeah, that's great. We've got an opportunity to do just that with a bunch of faculty members on November 19th, small plug, in the speed networking event for faculty and undergraduate researchers. So in that event, we're going to have, there's 18 faculty signed up for it already. We'll probably have, I'm hoping not too many more because we don't have a lot of time, but 18 faculty who are basically going to come. They're going to be at tables. Think of it like a speed dating kind of a setup. They'll be at tables, and we'll put small groups of students at each table. Those faculty members will give a quick pitch about what it is that their research project is this summer coming up. If that's something you're interested in, you can ask a few questions, hand them a CV or a resume, talk to them about it, at least get their contact information. and then go on to the next faculty member to hear what their research is. So it's a really good way to hear about a whole bunch of research that's happening on campus this summer. And all of those faculty members are actively looking for undergraduate researchers to be part of it. So it's gonna be a really good event for that. Are there other ones? Yeah.
For sure. I just had another thing to add to what you said. So a way to, if you're scared about what type of questions the profs are going to ask you, there's kind of two ways to go about this. So the first thing is actually don't be scared, because a lot of them are actually just trying to get to know you. They'll ask you basic questions like, oh, like what your unit program, even if you might have already said it in the email when you were reaching out. So a lot of them are just introduction questions, so you won't really or shouldn't really need to think about them a lot. But another way to go around if you're scared about subject specific questions are actually to include that in your email. So one thing I do is kind of back in the homework thing when you go through the papers or the research areas is pick one thing that you like about their research and tell them why you like that about their research or why that's important to you. That way they can already see and have an idea of why you're interested in that, and they'll probably just ask you more questions about that. So not necessarily what they're part of the research, but more why your interest is in that area.
Yeah, so no, okay, I mostly agree with my peers here, but we're gonna come in with a plan, okay? Now, there is a plugin, when you Google, like, for example, if you're in a biomed, there is a plugin for the honors program that helps you find these professors. When you go into that plugin, you can like search keywords. For example, my interest was metabolism, mitochondria, cancer, something. You can put in these keywords, and then you would find professors who are in that field of research. When you recognize these professors, you can collect their names, right? And then you should go and read some of their papers. And when you read some of their papers, you can email one by one, with a very catered, don't do general email, with a very catered email, right? And when you get a response, if you get a response, I think you're gonna get a response if you make a proper catered email. Before you come in, you're gonna have a general, at least like a vague idea of their research, of what they're into, right? And you're gonna start throwing these bait conversations, right? Oh, I heard you're into this. When I was young, I used to do this and this and that. Or in my case, let me give you a clearer example. I'm with Dr. Brian Bandy, right? This is for my honors project. I sent for about 6, 7 professors. Yeah, I sent for about this much professors, and he was the only one who replied. In my case, I used to be a very fat, right? I used to weigh 110 kilograms, right? And then I went to some research on how to activate my metabolism, right? And then I lost a lot of weight. So I touched on that, right? I was like, I'm so into mitochondria and something like that. And it happens that he researches his mitochondria. And I saw a post from him calling himself a mitochondriac. And I put that in my email, calling myself a mitochondriac. And I think that piqued his interest. So anyway, you should try to cater yourself and your email about what questions your professors might ask. Listen, this is like you're making friends, okay? So he's gonna ask you like some, not personal, but like questions about yourself, like, oh, what got you into mitochondria? In my case, I was like, oh, used to be so fat, and then I did some research and I activated my metabolism and I lost so much weight without going into the gym, and I did that through research or whatever, right? And then he's gonna ask you questions about like, oh, what did you do previously, right? And I talked about my experience in this, which is not related. In my experience was in agriculture, right? It wasn't related to mitochondria, but what I said is, oh, I want to shift into something that I think there's a future in, or something I'm passionate about, and I want your help too. So there's a lot of appeal, right?
That's good. And I think that answers, we've got another question in the chat here about so if I start contacting researchers, professors, what should I include in the email? And I think you've, outlined lots of really good things to include in the email. What you're interested in, how that ties to what their research is. Again, that homework piece, do a bit of homework as to what it is they've done. put in any kind of experience that you have that might be relevant, even if it's not experience directly with that research or with that, you know, that lab. But even just competencies that would, you know, sort of work out, that would sort of, you know, be part of that. So I think that's an important piece. We've only got about 4 minutes left, and I do want to do one last question, which is just if you were starting all over again, what's one thing you wish you knew before you started into undergraduate research? Any of you?
I don't think I have anything. I liked the learning curve I took getting there.
I love it.
I mean, you gotta learn to make mistakes
I love it.
and you gotta get out there and network, and I think that was the big part of it, so
Yeah.
I think just no regrets. I guess.
Just jump in blind.
Jump
and-
in,
yeah.
I think, yeah, you gotta get out of your comfort zone, you gotta talk to professors, get to know them in class, that's probably the best advice I can give, is just get to know them personally.
Yeah, for sure. Anybody else? Any specific things?
How difficult it is to find jobs, I
Yeah.
suppose.
Yeah, just how much tenacity it would take to.
It's good personal growth.
It is.
I would say for me, it would be more advice, so. I would say that I started like earlier than some people, mostly just because I kind of knew what I was doing. It's true, it wasn't like perfect the way around, but the way that I am just talking to different people, it kind of still worked out in my favor. Thank goodness. But I would say don't be scared. Don't let that imposter syndrome take over and say, oh, like maybe, oh, I'm just the first year, I've only been to like my biology lab, I don't know. Just take that step. Don't sell yourself short. Just go in and see what happens.
I think I would have just explored and appreciated the on-campus talent at USask earlier. Because when I was trying to work, like shop around my project and try to get an established paleontologist to start identifying my specimens, I was originally emailing paleontologists at other places all over the world. And I guess I just didn't consider that there might be a world-renowned expert in precisely the thing I was studying right here.
Yeah.
And I eventually did, of course, and that's why all of this happened. But if I would have considered that sooner, I would have been in contact with him earlier, so.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's awesome. I want to thank our panel for being brave enough to come out today and talk about their experiences. They're all on journeys that are continuing, that they're continuing to engage in undergraduate research here. We do have a bunch of workshops coming up. Again, URSAW, which is Undergraduate Research Scholarly and Artistic Works, has the SURE program, the FIRE program. So keep in contact with us. Our email's there. We've got lots of stuff coming up. If you have specific questions that didn't get answered today that you'd like answers for, just email us. We're totally open to just chatting and talking about this stuff one-on-one. If you want some help with some of those things, that speed networking is going to be awesome. Even just to come, even if you don't plan on applying for anything this year, come and hear about some research. Come and meet other researchers. Come and meet other students who are doing this. Networking, I think, in my mind, is the #1 way to get involved with research here at the university. Meet people, talk to people, just get involved in any way. I think that's really the best way to do it. Yeah, so that speed networking one I would highly recommend. A couple specific USRA ones coming up as well. That advanced strategies for CVs and applications, that's tomorrow. Again, even if you're not planning on applying, just being able to write about your skills in order to talk to some faculty members, in order to email some faculty members and talk about your skills with them and describe your skills with them. I think that's a valuable one for sure. And then the last thing I will pitch is right after this in room 145, I believe. USurge, which is the Undergraduate Research Journal here on campus, is having a little launch of their latest journal that they've just published. So I highly recommend everybody go over to room 145. Right after this, they're having just a little snacks and socializing. around their recent journal publication. So something you should know about for sure if you're looking to research undergraduate stuff. And if you're looking to publish papers, that's a great place to get your stuff published and to start getting engaged with. You can become an editor of that publication as well. So something to consider. So thanks everybody for coming out. Thanks once again for our panel. Let's give them a warm round. And we'll hope to talk to you guys soon. I know all it is.